Serena Williams, Beyonce, some of the richest black women in the world who are still reporting having bad experiences. If not for the fact that she had a pulmonary embolism before, knew what it felt like, she probably could have passed away.
Welcome to another episode of the Mr MoneyJar show. Today's guest is an entrepreneurial superstar, Tinuke Awe, a good friend of mine, who is the founder of not just one, not just two, but 3 businesses. And we talk today about how she manages to be the founder and operator of 3 businesses, as well as being a full-time mum and an all-round great person. I just know you're going to get so much from this conversation. So without any further ado, let's get into it. You're tuned into the Mr MoneyJar show. It's showtime. So is it Tinuke or Atinuke?
It's both. It's both. I feel like it's both. I feel like, I don't know, I should have just stuck with one. But if you search for Atinuke, sometimes the Tinuke stuff doesn't come up and vice versa. But it's Tinuke. A lot of people call me Tinuke. I'm only called Atinuke when I'm in trouble by my mum. That's my full name, right?
It's a very similar situation for me where I'm Timmy.
Yeah.
And it confuses a lot of people because people think I'm Timothy, but it's actually Oluwarotimi. And that's the name I get.
I feel like we've had this conversation before.
Yeah.
Rotimi.
It's like and then some of my family will call me Rotimi. Rotimi is like the, friendly, kind of affectionate one.
Yeah.
Oluwarotimi is like, you're in trouble. And then Timmy is like obviously my given name. And then obviously I have Daniel, which is like my government name that only banks and people that fill forms out call me. And like no one ever calls me that.
Yeah. So my English name, is Esther. I don't look like an Esther.
Yeah, you don't look like Esther, but I do like the name Esther. I like it.
I feel like that's the name you give to like old people.
Yeah, but I think names are like cyclical. So I think we're now in a season where names from back in the day are like coming back and they're fashionable again.
It's true.
But I like Tinuke.
I like Tinuke. I like that. We'll stick to Tinuke.
Yeah. So you're a phenomenal entrepreneur, Tinuke. You manage multiple businesses, you have children, you run a family, and you talk about all this on your platforms as well. So could you just give us a bit of a kind of a flavor of like the businesses you run and like how you spend your time?
Okay, so I'm a mom of 2. I got a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old who's going on 30.
Okay.
She's 3 going on 30.
I know those kind of kids, yeah.
My daughter, I don't know if it's because she's the second born. Second-borns are normally savages, though, to be fair.
Yeah.
If it's because she's a girl or it's pandemic baby, I don't know. A mixture of all of those 3 has created the baby girl that is Eden. So she's 3 going on 30. I run Mums and Tea, which is a social platform for mums to connect. And that actually came about for a very selfish reason. I'll be honest. I'll be completely honest. I was the first one out of my friends to have a baby. And I was like, ain't no way. I'm not doing this alone. I've heard of all the stories of depression, social isolation, all of that when
it's
you
real.
become a mum. And I was like, it's not a bit of me. But I was realizing that when I was going to like stay in plays and soft plays and like baby groups and stuff like that in my local area, and I live in quite a, used to at the time anyways, quite a urban type of area,
I'm with you.
With folk that look like me and you, okay? Yeah. But every time I would go, I'd be the only young black mom there. And I was like, no, ain't no way I'm the only young black mom that's given birth in Southeast London. What's up? Where are we? Why are we not coming out? What's going on? And this isn't to say that, I can't connect with other people, mothers of other ethnicities. Because, like, we're all mums. We have that shared kind of experience. But you know how we're just talking about, Nigerian names, that kind of thing. Like, that identity, that belonging kind of to a community and that whole experience of like, when your mom is saying, give the baby water, and the midwife is telling you no water, until they're weaning and stuff like that. So is that very, I'm raising a black man and I need people that know what it's like to do that community, Sure. And so I thought it was just important to make sure I was raising my baby, but also like around my people. And so that they were also connecting to themselves. Because I was like, well, if I'm lonely, then other people might also be, feeling like this. So that was just a way to connect mums together. And it was lit before the pandemic. And obviously we're back now. We're doing our brunches. We're having the best time. But it was built to make sure that women were coming out of the house, making a new friend, but also learning. That was really important for me. Like, come and like learn about first aid or potty training or business,
I don't have children, but I've definitely heard more than one person say that, like, you go to hospital and you have the baby and you're well looked after in that time, hopefully. But then a point comes when they just give you the baby, no manual, and then it's just like, off you go. Genuinely, that's what it's like.
No, literally, that's what it feels like, which is why I was craving that, look, I need to be around other moms.
Sure.
And then I was like, no, I need to be around other people, not like me. But, like that whole experience is so, especially when it's your first time, it's a lot. And so through building Mums and Tea, I was building a huge network of mums in my community. And I had a bad experience giving birth to my son. And talking to other women, obviously you get new mums together, you're talking about, how was your birth? What happened? How was your labor? Was it? No one had a good story. Just trauma. Trauma upon trauma, negative experiences, sepsis. We're talking sepsis, emergency C-sections, like the whole shebang. Really bad, traumatic, to the point where it became normal. And I was like, this isn't normal. Something's going on, right? And then when I heard the statistics, so at the time, historically, Black women were 5 times more likely to die during pregnancy, childbirth, and the 6-week period after. And that bit's important because that postpartum period is actually where more women die, unfortunately. So hearing that and knowing all of the experiences of the women in my community, I was like, something's not right. We need to do something about this.
And that, sorry to jump in here, Tinuke, but that is a horrendous statistic. And I remember when the report first came out, not really understanding what was happening behind that. So I'd love to talk about that a bit more, a bit further into the episode.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, we'll love to delve more into those statistics. But yeah, I through the network, I reached out to my now co-founder. She was a friend at the time. Met her on via social media. I actually slid into her DM. So the power of social media, networking, that kind of thing. I met my co-founder that way. She always told the story of how I slid into her DMs and I invited her to my house and I could have been a stranger. And I'm like, but who came? Who came? You actually came to my house, so don't try it. So when she watches this back, but yeah, so we actually wanted to have an event because she worked in maternity at the time. I had the platform and the big mouth on all the mums. So I was like, let's do something. Let's raise awareness. Let's have an event. We didn't end up having that event. We ended up just building 5 times more because there was such a need.
Hence the birth of the platform.
Here we go.
Brilliant.
I like what you did there. The third is learning with Ez. So, said child that I gave birth to whilst Mums and Tea, 5 times more and everything. My son, I'm just a hands-on mum. I'm Nigerian, so we love learning. We like education.
Yeah. We do.
We like reading our books. We
like school.
This is it. We're scholars. We're scholars in our country. We love books. And I studied psychology. I was very, very interested in child development. I was this close to becoming a teacher, but I went down the HR route because your girl needs money. But in all of that, I just loved child development. And I really wanted to be that kind of hands-on mom, making sure that my son was seeing things that were reflective of him and reflective of the world around him. So I was buying loads of Black books. You got cast your mind back 5 years ago, 5-6 years ago. It was coming along.
But you know what? It's kind of pre and post 2020, if we're being very honest.
Yeah.
Pre and post George Floyd's murder.
Literally. So 2017, I remember I had a Woke Baby subscription. I had to specifically subscribe to a service to find Black books that were suitable for my son's age. So it was hard back then, before Black Lives Matter and that whole era. I just remember feeling really frustrated because I could barely find books, but I couldn't find educational resources to support his learning. So I couldn't find posters. I couldn't find flashcards. I couldn't find, just like other things to help. And I remember specifically, and I always tell this story whenever I'm talking about learning with Ez, going into the pound shop and looking for a poster on body parts, because I wanted to obviously head, shoulders, knees, and you want to teach them about their, about life, about stuff, about their body parts. And there was no pictures, there was no posters of Black children. It was all white children. So specifically like a white boy with blonde hair, blue eyes. And I was like, this is not good enough. I'm not gonna teach my son that. There's nothing wrong with it, but he deserves more. And all children deserve more. Yeah. And furthermore, he's actually autistic. So at the time I didn't know, but now obviously I know. So he's quite visual in his nature, So I was missing a trick. Like I was finding that when I was reading books or doing things that had diverse characters, he would pay attention. Because I'm guessing he's making that connection that looks like him.
Yeah.
So I started learning with Ez because representation matters for all. And I obviously have my son in the back of my mind, but it applies to all children, no matter where you're from, no matter what your background is.
Well, I was going to say that, but of course, having a conversation about a neurodiverse child here, but and also the whole neurodiverse, neurotypical thing is very interesting as well, because I'm like, what is a neurotypical brain? I think by the time we've all said and done, everyone's brain will be on the spectrum of something, like somewhere. But when it comes to like neurotypical learning styles, there are like 4 distinct learning styles still. There's visual, auditory, kinesthetic, and I forget what the R is, writing stuff down.
I know it. It's in the back of my brain.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. All right. By the time we get to it, it'll come. Yeah,
I think it's that. It's like you see, you learn by seeing, visual, you learn by hearing, auditory, kinesthetic, it's movement. And then the R, I think, is like writing stuff down, writing and recall or something. Yeah, maybe we'll remember at some point during this episode. I think the fact that you were able to pick up on that, see what your son needed, and then actually create, because you created flashcards, didn't you?
I did.
Create them for your son is amazing. And I don't know if you categorize yourself in this way or you think about yourself in this way, but I think that fundamentally you're a teacher. That's the 3 things. You're an educator. That's the 3 things I think your organizations have joining them together, because Mums and Tea was about like bringing mums together so they could learn with each other.
Absolutely.
5 times more is about teaching like the general public about this really important issue. And then you have like the teaching children thing. So do you have any teaching background? Is that even
Did you pick up on the fact that I said I was going to be a teacher, but honey, the money.
Yeah, so you went down HR. Okay, great.
I literally was going to go down the teaching route.
Right.
I'd applied for Teach First everything.
Okay.
No, I'm being dead serious.
Okay.
Like, I was going to do it.
Yeah.
And then I fell pregnant and I was like, nah.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, you're a teacher through and through, and it strikes me as your true vocation as well.
Ooh, funny you say that. You know what? I know I say this and I link the dots, but now I'm actually linking the dots.
Okay.
So within HR, I'm specifically learning and development. There we go.
This is the time to break the...
There we go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The reason why I make this point is because I think that that's what I'm here to do. I'm here to teach. It just so happens to be about money right now. I have other interests and other things I think I could teach, but money happens to be the thing right now. And I don't know if it's this way for you, but I feel very alive when I'm in the zone and I'm imparting information to people, and you can see that they're learning from it as you're speaking. That is one of the greatest feelings in the world.
Absolutely. I guess, yeah, when you see it, when you look at some of the metrics, like on your like social media and posts and stuff like that, it's crazy how people are interacting with the certain things that you've been able to kind of bring to life.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good.
For me, and for, I'm sure, many of the people listening to this episode, could you please go a bit deeper into this 5 times more statistic and talk about why it's the case? I think for me, I don't want to say rather shamefully, because I did read up on it, but like I saw the headline, you know, when the study first dropped, but I don't have as much of the detail. So what's happening there?
When you know, let me know. I shouldn't even laugh.
Yeah.
It's not funny. It's actually not funny.
Well,
but
so laugh if you don't laugh, you'll cry type.
No, absolutely.
Laugh.
No,
Yeah.
you have to. You have to because it's sobering work. So the statistic 5 times more came from Embrace, and every year they collect data on maternal deaths. And it was previously higher than that, by the way. Yeah, at one point it was African women were 7 times more. It's been high for decades, by the way, as well. So this is not new information. So when we kind of started campaigning about it, that kind of thing, it wasn't new. It had been that way for a long time. So what they do, they collect data from maternal deaths and they put it into a report. And that's how the whole, the 6-week period, because you can see at what point they're dying and kind of what from, almost. And what's interesting, you're a numbers man.
Yeah.
What's interesting is the overpopulation of Black women in the data. So we only account for, obviously, as you know, a very small amount of population, even smaller amount of women giving birth.
5%,
but yeah,
thereabouts.
We are 5 times more likely to die. So that just rang alarm bells because I was like, I'm not good at maths. That was my worst grade. Like that was my worst GCSE grade at a C.
Yeah.
Not good at maths, but you can clearly see. But if we account for a small amount of births and
then why are we so overrepresented?
Well, what's going on there? So if you look at the data, you see that actually we're not dying from anything more than what white women are dying from. So it's not anything different. It's just at a higher rate.
Right.
Again, which is quite scary. It's something's not quite adding up. Do you know what I mean? And it's not just death. It's pretty much everything when it comes to maternity. So we're talking stillbirth, we're talking miscarriage, we're talking IVF and the success rate. We're talking pretty much everything. So yeah, that's the data we know. Now to try and get into what it could be, you can't just put it on one thing, And I guess that's why we exist, because we're like, well, why? We want to hold those in power to account and be like, what's going on? Like this is a problem. It's been a problem for ages. What's going on? How can you attack it? And basically we need to change it now. Hence why we're so passionate about giving the resources, and that's kind of on that grassroots level, speaking to Black women on that level, because we're like, look, it's kind of scary. Yeah. I get it. You hear that statistic, which is why, again, I mentioned I was pregnant with my second. I was like, I don't want what happened to my first to happen again. I really don't. And I want to make sure that people have that knowledge, know about your rights, know about what to expect. All of that kind of thing is so, so important. Sorry, I'm going off on a tangent and I've missed my point.
No, you're just talking about, the question was, why is it happening? And you're just basically saying we don't know why. And we maybe have quantitative data around what's happening. So we have the 5 times more statistic, previously 7, and we're trying to spread the qualitative data as well through experience,
through our report, stuff like that.
And do you focus groups and that sort of thing?
Well, yes and no. We talk to women on a regular basis.
Yep,
so
sure.
then I wouldn't say they're like specifically, specific focus groups, but we are talking to women. Women are sending us their information as well.
Good.
All the time.
Good.
So I guess, again, it's just a number of reasons, so many different things. People think, is it racism?
Yeah.
Yeah. And to that, I would say some women are going into hospitals and having experiences, and it's from people that look like me and you, not just, it's not, you can't just go in and expect, well, if I get a white woman, it's going to be racist treatment and it doesn't actually work like that.
Yes.
It's what they're learning.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? How things look like on Black skin. What are they being taught?
I am so happy that you've learned this, that you said this. I think to your point about it's not just one reason, actually I kind of expect that, because if it was a solvable issue, then you'd just click your fingers and you'd solve it. And I think problems are problems because they're not easily solvable. Yeah. And they're complicated and there's normally lots of different factors and you need to do the work, which is what you're doing. But I think, the stuff that you're doing in terms of like the quantitative and qualitative is important. But I noted that on your socials, because you also hold the people in charge to account, they actually said, well, I'll let you say what they said.
That they weren't going to put a target in. So a report was done by the women. I always get, there's so many different equality committees and stuff like that we're involved with. But I think it's the Women and Equalities Committee we submitted evidence for. They did like a report, like an inquiry kind of thing, and just to kind of round up all the information that's out there, just to have it in one place, which I think was quite good, because there's lots of bits of information, but it's not all in one place. So they put that together, presented it to the government. The government had a couple of months to respond, and they've come back and said, yeah, we're not going to set a target. They've said this before. They have said this before. This is in a number of the debates that we've held in Parliament about this. They basically, the number is too small. They don't think it's going to be the right way to make use of their resources, basically. So it translates to, we're not important enough, essentially. Because if the shoe was on the other foot, if the roles were reversed, we know that this wouldn't be a thing. Let's be completely honest. It wouldn't be a thing that has been dragging on for decades. It would never be a thing. And you can't argue with the stats, right? But yeah, back to the point of, why this is happening. I feel like, we have to also think about, how do I put this? Like, okay, so one of the things from our report was that socioeconomic status actually didn't play as much of a factor as they think. Everyone's like, oh, it's because you're poor, it's because you're black, you live in a bad area, that's why this is happening. Which, by the way, if that was the case, they should be doing more, but it's not. It's not just that. We're having women who completed our study, they were in relationships at the time, and they were earning above the national average in terms of wage.
Right.
So, and they're, degree level educated and higher, as we said. We like our books. We like our books, you know? So we're getting, a caliber of woman that still having bad experiences despite everything else, saying that they probably shouldn't, right? And you only have to look at Serena Williams, Beyonce, some of the richest black women in the world who are still reporting having bad experiences. Serena Williams was noted that she, if not for the fact that she had a pulmonary embolism before and knew what it felt like, she probably could have passed away, because she was saying to the health professionals, look, something's happening, I don't quite feel right. And she was dismissed. Your
point just reminded me of something I wanted to say earlier. We can come back to, what the data correlated with, but you mentioned skin, and I was going to say that is such a great point, because I really like the NHS website, mostly. It's a nice, for me personally, it's a nice place to go to look up symptoms and not have AIDS or cancer. Because that's generally what you have.
Dr. Google, basically.
Yeah. That's generally what you have when you Google stuff, and you're not supposed to Google stuff. You Google, it's like, my head's hurting. Okay, it's cancer. It's cancer. Great, yeah. Thanks. But the NHS website I have found the most useful. But things like skin color are really important, because if it's like there's this life-threatening disease and your skin will appear red, it's like, okay, well, my skin doesn't do that, so should I just die then, kind of thing? So it's about recognizing the diversity of experience, and that's just one thing. But then you were talking about pulmonary embolism, and that brought to mind for me heart attacks and the way in which they present differently for men and women and stuff. And when you think about science as a historically male field, I don't think this is the case anymore, but I remember one Bill Gates TED talk that he gave, where he said that at the time there was more funding going into male pattern baldness than into, I think it was malaria, because I think in that same talk he releases a mosquito into the crowd.
Very radical.
Yeah. And it's like, so the people just natural human bias means that the people who are funding it are like funding their own problems as well.
Yeah, of course.
So when you then apply this to maternal outcomes, you can see how a myriad number of reasons can end up in like the outcomes we're discussing.
No, absolutely. Which is why you need more Black researchers. You
Yeah.
need more funding being put into it because, oh my gosh, what was it? COVID.
Yes.
Did you see that? There was, at the time, there was a big pot of money, massive pot of money going out to researchers, and they were going to study something to do with COVID, and I don't remember the exact details, but basically a group of Black researchers have put some money in. Bearing in mind, remember, COVID was affecting people that look like me and you
Yep.
most, the hardest,
Yep.
the worst. They'd put in some funding, and they got rejected. And they had to write like an open letter, and it was like a real big thing because it's like, well, you want to research into why this is happening without involving the very people that it's happening to.
Yeah.
Make it make sense. And this is one of the things we say all the time whenever we're campaigning, whenever we're talking to MPs and things like that. We're like in Parliament, we're like, yo, it's pretty simple. Do something different to get a different result.
Absolutely.
You can't expect to keep doing the same thing again and again and expect a different result.
Absolutely. And I think that it's a very relevant conversation for this podcast as well, because we maybe don't like to think of things in this way, but like research is a commercial enterprise. Like if you want to research something, you want to find out about something, there need to be people willing to pay for that to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And if that doesn't happen, that's how you end up with these blind spots in medicine, in research, in anything really. And equally, the stuff that we do have is as a result of the stuff that money has poured into.
No, facts. Listen, our Black Maternity Experience report, we did it with no funding, no money, no nothing.
Goodness.
Do you get what I'm saying? Whereas we know people... As I said, if you don't laugh, you cry.
Yeah.
We know people who got given a substantial amount of money to do the same thing, got less than 1/10 of the results that we did, didn't hit the right, the people yet were given all those opportunities. We had to rely on the time, the free time of Black women and Black researchers and Black people in our community who love what we're doing, support what we're doing. And they had to do it for free off of their own time to support us. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And that's even, imagine if we didn't have that idea to do that. That data would still be missing.
Yeah.
Imagine those women didn't come forward to help us. We wouldn't have that. So yeah, it's all kind of, it's messed up. But
in an ideal world, like what resources, what help would you want? What would you want the government to say instead of, we're not setting a target and we don't think that would be the right strategy to solve this problem, which is what they'd said, right? Like,
I just think it's insane because if you put a target to it, that means it will come with specific deadlines. It will come with specific funding. Let's say, I don't know, you're not much in the maternity world, but like the smoking cessation, when there was that whole bill of, we don't want women to smoke anymore during pregnancy. And that was everywhere, right? You can see the effects that it can have if they want to put a target to something, how well that works and how well that translates. And so I think first and foremost, just putting a target in so that you can have specific, targeted, focused things in place to make sure that Black women and all women essentially are having good births. Because one thing we say, if you fix it for Black women, you fix it for pretty much everyone.
Absolutely.
Because they're the ones that have the worst experiences,
Absolutely.
right? So just be a bit more targeted. That everything that they put in their response is always general. And we're like, no, this isn't about the general. And this isn't to say that white women, Chinese women, people of other ethnicities don't have bad experiences as well. This isn't to say that at all. Because some of the, I guess whenever when we go viral on Twitter or something like that, people are like, it's all about race, isn't it? The people that just don't quite get what's going on. No, it's not all about race, but the stats speak for themselves. You can't argue with it. You can't. You can't argue with that now 3.7 times because it's gone down ever so slightly, but it's still almost 4 times. Let's be real. You can't argue with that.
Yeah, it's very difficult to. I've never actually shared this publicly, but I remember in that week that George Floyd was murdered, lots of Black people I knew, myself included, like cried that week, often for like reasons that we didn't fully understand. I remember, my brother doesn't mind me saying, my brother said he cried. I cried, just like lots of people. And I think it can sometimes be very heavy to, when you actually, because you've laughed at a lot of times in this episode, but you do kind of have to laugh, because when you think about the fact that like, wow, why do people just like not care about the community that I'm a part of or my outcomes, that can actually be a very upsetting thought. But look, we keep things positive on this podcast, and I certainly think the only way to look at the future is optimistically. And I think that by force, this country is going to have to realize that you cannot measure the success of a country by how well off you can become in that country or how rich you can become in that country. You need to look at the people who are the least well off and how well they're doing. Should we measure a country by how well the least well off people are doing? If they're okay, as you said, everyone else is going to be okay as well.
Absolutely.
Could we talk a bit about some of your achievements outside of like 5XMore? Because as I said, you're a phenomenal woman, and you somehow allocate all your time to all these different organizations and running a family as well. You recently won 2 prizes, I think, for some of your other businesses. Can you talk a bit about that? Okay. And like your fundraising experience too.
Okay. Okay, so yeah. Okay, cool. No, I'm just thinking, what do I say? You know what? I'm so used to talking about 5XMore. You can see I'm lighting up and I'm so passionate. And just to be honest, the reality of juggling so many different businesses that all have this golden thread running through them. Like you said, the whole learning and that kind of thing.
Education.
But they're separate businesses, they're different businesses, which require different parts of my brain and just everything. So 5XMore I run with my co-founder, Chloe. Learning with us, I do on my own. And honey, it's been the ghetto. It's been the ghetto. We launched in 2020. Very well received, obviously, at the time. Still very well received, which I thank God for. And we've had loads of customers. We've done so much. See, look, I'm so used to saying we. It's just me, but you know that whole, when you're a small business, it's we and our team. No, I'm the team. The team is I.
So you make the stuff, marketing, like the whole
shebang, sales, everything. And I feel like because 5XMore does take up a lot of my time, I don't get as much time for learning with us as I would like to.
Okay.
Because I'm still, I quit my job. It's coming up to 2 years. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thanks. It's almost 2 years ago that I got my son's diagnosis of autism, and I just could not handle like everything. I couldn't handle, at the time I was working full time, 5XMore, learning with theirs. My daughter wasn't at nursery yet, so I was working from home with her around. She was like very, very little, and it was a nightmare. And juggling, going to all his appointments and stuff like that. So it wasn't an easy decision to make, obviously, cost of living, finances and stuff, but I felt like my family needed me. And I needed to be there for them. So yes, we worked really hard with 5XMore, worked really hard trying to, with our sales, with learning with us, and somehow we've been able to keep our heads afloat. And, to the glory of God, I've not needed to go back. I've wanted to on plenty of occasions, let me tell you, but I've not needed to go back. We've just kind of made it work. But back to the point of like learning with us. So I feel like I haven't given it a lot of my time. I feel like if I gave it the same attention that I give 5XMore, we'd be so different. We'd be so different. But I'm kind of at a place where I'm learning to be like, it's okay. It's actually okay. This is okay. It's okay for you to be where you are right now because it's all part of the journey.
Absolutely. That is such an important lesson in business. I think it can, sorry to jump in, but even like with my business, I have this idea of where things should be, like in my head.
Because we're Nigerian.
Just impatient.
Yeah, no. Because the other people doing it, they don't have two heads, innit?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you always compare it and be like, no, but I'm supposed to be here. And you set these high, great, unrealistic goals for yourself.
I make a rule when it comes to comparison that unless I'm willing to completely change places with someone, all the good and all the bad, I'm actually just fine in my own situation. And I now make a concerted effort to not compare myself to the person across the table from me, but to who I was this time last year, the year before that. And actually, if I look at what 2020 Timmy was doing and I compare it to 2023 Timmy, I'm smashing it. I'm doing a great job.
That's my guy.
Yeah. Because growing a business, it is like planting a tree. You would never ever plant a tree and then come back the next day and be like, where's
where is it?
Yeah. Like you know when you're doing that you're doing something for the long term. Equally, as we go investing a lot and you expect to invest for the long term. So why not build a business for the long term?
This is true. I guess we just expect those quick, fast results because everyone else seems to be getting them, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah. I guess I was saying all of that to say, sometimes I feel like, is it an achievement? I don't know. It is. But sometimes I feel like I should be doing more. I should have done more. Mm-hmm. But I'm making an impact.
You are. Your reputation precedes you. There are so many people, and I say this in like the best possible way. There are so many people who know about your platform who may not necessarily know about who you are. And I think that is the mark that you've actually built something that's going to outlive you when the thing precedes you. And I'm talking about like speaking to people from all over the country and they've heard of the 5XMore like campaign and the work that it's doing. I think it's like incredible and you just need to keep doing it. I think that when you're doing something that's hard, but it's working, you kind of have to keep doing it because when you
tell me about it.
When you achieve whatever milestone you want to achieve, everyone will be like, oh, how did you do that? It's like, you didn't see me when I was putting in the work all these months and years.
You wasn't with me hitting in the gym.
Yes. Yeah, that reference. What does Tinuke do to have fun?
Eat. That was too quick. I
don't think I finished the.
No,
what's
sorry.
your favorite?
Because you know why? Because I'm hungry right now. I haven't lost the time. I haven't eaten my dinner. I'm starving.
Likewise.
I like eating.
Do you have a favorite restaurant? Favorite type of food?
Ooh, favorite restaurant definitely has to. I love a rocker brunch.
What? I've never heard of that.
Oh my, no. The dim sum, what? The chicken gyoza, please.
Is it Japanese or Pan-Asian or?
It's Pan-Asian.
Okay.
But I love it. And obviously, it comes with like bottomless cocktails.
Yeah.
And wine, fizzy. But I love it. I just love it. I love the food. I love the vibes. That's a bit of me. After that, no. Let me be true to myself here. My favorite food in the world is pounded jam. Because
thank you.
I'm a Nigerian girl. In fact, specifically, I'm from Ekiti.
Okay.
And we like, that's what we're known for.
Yeah.
Pounded jam.
Yeah.
We grow yam. We like pounded jam. Pounded jam and efo riro.
Efo is good.
Don't tell me you're good. What do you have with?
Egusi is my favorite.
Oh.
My mum's egusi stew is literally my favorite food in the world. And she knows, like, if I go home, she'll like make it.
Oh, that's cute.
And then, yeah.
That's cute.
Even now, like I'm salivating.
Yeah. Even please, where can I get it on the way? Because there's no way I'm going home to be started doing pounded jam.
Probably the closest place to here is Peckham. There's actually a great restaurant in Peckham that I've been going to for years called Lolac. You been to Lolac?
My kind of guy.
Okay, yeah.
It gives you. Have you been to Nigeria before?
I've not been for a long time, many years.
It gives street vibes,
Buka
type, underground scene, but the food,
the food
slaps.
Food's really good. The portion sizes are amazing, and I love the sign that they have on the wall. I don't know if they have it anymore, which is like, the food here is very peppery. We accept no responsibility for. It's like, what happened to the people? What happened to your previous guests?
No, that's very funny. You know what? As you said that, I just imagine somebody, quite gentrified, going over.
Yeah, just being stretched. Yeah, being stretchered out.
Because they couldn't handle the pepper soup. Yeah, Lolac is a vibe. But yeah, pounded jam is that's my hobby.
Yeah. Lolac is good. Inish?
Inish is good. Inish is good. Inish is very good.
Yeah.
Tasties is good. Alaji
Tasties.
Suya for their suya and their jollof rice is good.
And I've not been to this place, but Ikoyi.
Ikoyi. Oh,
I've not been, but non-Nigerian people have been there, and they've really enjoyed it. And I think that, and of course, chukus.
Chukus.
We love chukus.
We love chukus. We love chukus.
Yeah, they have great brother-sister team in Mecca and Iffy.
Yeah.
And I think they've been really resilient I'd love to get them on, actually. They've been really resilient, just like starting a restaurant in 2020.
Yeah, of course.
Like,
they're good. Food's brilliant. Yeah, I've been there a couple of times. Really good.
Gosh, do you know what it is? I don't consider myself a food person, but it's because I have a list of intolerances that's as long as my arm.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I've kind of always been lactose intolerant since I was a baby. Used to get like eczema and stuff. Yeah, about half the world's population can't digest milk, like kind of African, kind of Asian, Southeast Asian cultures. But then as I gotten older, it's just been like, okay, wheat. Okay, sugar. Like if I have a sugary food. Okay, prawns, nuts. Like the list just carries on growing. I had prawns in December 2021.
Mm-hmm.
And 3 hours later, have you seen Hitch? When he looks at the thing, he's like, whoa, that was me.
No,
that was me. I had to go to A&E. Yeah.
Is it just prawns or shellfish?
Do you know what it is? I think it's sulfites, and I think it is the stuff that the prawns are soaked in. And it happened to me then. I had to go to A&E.
So before that, you were fine?
I was fine. Yeah.
What's that about?
I don't know. So when it comes to food, I tend to stick with the stuff that works. But having that conversation with you, I was like, no, I love food. You
just can't eat much of it now.
Yeah, I just probably just stick to Nigerian food.
yeah. No, but then fried rice, prawns.
Fried rice. Do you know what? What I need to do, I just need to like maybe try a bit and then just ease my way back in. Because it wasn't nice. Like I was like just feeling my face like swell up and swell up and swell up. And I had to stop and get a Benadryl from a Sainsbury's. Yeah, it was peak times, definitely.
That sounds peak because I like food, so I'd be very upset if that was me. Very upset.
Yeah.
Very upset. Okay, what else do I do for hobbies? I feel like kind of a fatty. We've just been talking about food for the past 10 minutes.
We have a question that we like to ask everyone on the show. And the answers are always super interesting, actually. And it's, what's the best piece of money advice you've ever received? Who shared it with you and what did you learn?
Ooh. Okay. Who is that going to be? I don't know if it's the best, but it's the one that's coming to my mind.
Yeah.
And I think because we've been talking about food, Nigeria, my mum is just coming to my mind. I don't know. Let's just go with this.
Yeah.
Let's go with this.
Yeah.
She said to me, as a woman, you always need to have your own. And she said this to me like when I was really, really young, very, like before I'd obviously met my husband, before I'd even gone to uni, everything. As a woman, you must always have your own. Make sure you always have something for a rainy day. And she would always like, okay, for instance, like the first time I worked and I got a salary, she took the first check.
Yeah. My mum did the same.
Yeah, she took the first check, prayed over it. I was like, well, bro, am I not going to get it back? She was like, no, you're not getting it back. It's for me. And I was like, oh, okay. But she was like, she prayed over it and stuff like that. She did end up giving it back eventually, which is good. But she was like, make sure you always like save for a rainy day. But as a woman, always have your own money. And maybe I shouldn't say this because I don't want my husband to know. No, I'm joking. Secret stash of money somewhere. No, we're very transparent and open in our house. But yeah, I think that really stuck out to me from quite a young age. Like, have your money, have your own as a woman, because anything can happen. These men, you men.
I'm not denying anything. Yeah. I mean,
it's the way you're nodding. You're like,
yeah. Some, yeah.
Yeah.
And some women too. But like,
that's true.
Everyone should. Your finances is like your health. It's like your health. You look after your own health. You fit your own oxygen mask first. That way you're in a position to help other people as well.
Definitely.
Thank you so much for joining me on today's episode
Thanks
of the podcast.
for having
I've learned so much by talking to you as well. And I think the work that you do is vitally important. I think everyone can learn something from how you conduct business, from how you teach, from your passion. It's so evident to see. So thank you.
Thanks so much for having me.
People who want to find you online and find out more about your work, where can they find you?
So, first and foremost, I'm on Instagram. If you search for Tinuke Awe or search for Mums and Tea, I'll come up. I'm now on Threads.
Okay.
You're on Threads, I saw.
I'm on Threads, yeah.
We like Threads. Do we like Threads?
I could say a whole bunch of stuff about
really?
Threads, but yeah, it seems to be well made. They need to create cover photos. My Threads profile's looking a bit bald right now. just white.
Yeah.
Cool.
So Threads, the same name. 5 times more on Instagram, on Twitter. So that's 5 spelt out, X more. And then Learning with Ez on Instagram. And if you want to shop our products, our amazing flashcards, and our autism-friendly range, which we newly launched a couple of weeks ago, that is www.learningwithez.co.uk.
Thank you for coming on.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for watching this week's episode of the Mr MoneyJar Show. If you enjoyed it, then please do subscribe, as it helps out the show a lot and enables us to continue running. Anyway, we'll be back next week with another special guest. I've been your host, Timmy Merriman Johnson.